I was originally a wealthy young master and was lost outside. At the age of 18, I was a lifetime honorary professor at Harbin University of Technology. On my national graduation day, 300 armored vehicles were even dispatched to escort me. That day, I went down to the mine to do my duty, but when I came back out, my biological parents found me. My rich dad covered his nose, looked at me and said to the person next to him, "Prepare another car for him, don't let him dirty my back seat." The biological mother tried to suppress her disgust and reluctantly asked, "Son, you have suffered all these years. When you come home and clean up, I will take good care of you." After that, they quickly got in the car and left. Accompanying them was their adopted daughter, Lu Nguyen. She looked at me, then back at her pink Maserati. Finally, I sighed and got in my car. When I returned to Lu's house, I didn't see my biological parents. I only saw a person my age, named Lu Hai. The person who was mistaken for me and became a fake young master. He took my hand and smiled brightly. "Should I call you brother? Don't worry. I won't play any games that differentiate between truth and falsehood. From now on, we are siblings, we must live in harmony with each other." Having said that, he thrust a fruit knife into my hand. He pulled my hand towards him, but because he was too weak, he couldn't pull it. He looked at me, blinked innocently, then continued pulling. I pointed to the phone strapped to my chest and said briefly, "Nowadays people often record the beautiful moments of life." Lu Hai was scared and immediately let go of my hand. The experience of watching Fox review stories is not wasted. At this time, Lu Nguyen just parked the car and walked in. Seeing me holding a knife, Lu Hai's face was full of fear. Her expression immediately became strange. I was too lazy to explain, so I conveniently stuffed the knife into Lu Hai's hand. He immediately smiled to please. "Sister, you're home. Why did you ask Vong to prepare lotus seed porridge for you? I'll go get it right away." "No need." Lu Nguyen shook her head then turned to ask me, "Ko Gan, are you hungry? Don't want to eat?" I went to the sofa, lay down on it, and took out snacks from my backpack. Looking bored with life, stuffing it into his mouth. This is my state of life. If you can sit, definitely don't stand. If you can lie down, definitely don't sit. No sleepiness. It's normal for Lu Nguyen to ask with concern. I continued to eat, took out my tablet again, typed with my left hand, scrolled through videos on my phone with my right hand, and occasionally stuffed snacks into my mouth. Lu Nguyen and Lu Hai looked at me like a monster. Especially Lu Hai. He stepped closer, pretending to be enthusiastic and said, "Brother, you have worked hard these past few years. Don't you know the rules of the rich? If others see you like this, the Lu family will lose face. But don't worry, I will teach you etiquette. It's been delivered, no need." I yawned and kindly reminded, "The coal mine is very busy, won't you go home and help your family?" In my opinion, even though we are biological parents, we should still meet them once. Otherwise, I wouldn't come back to this house. So he also wants to meet his biological parents. But Lu Hai twitched the corner of his mouth, his eyes turned red, and immediately said, "Brother, if you don't like me staying at the Lu family's house, then you can leave." Pretending to be president. I saw it. He said he didn't fight for fake status, but in fact he still wanted to fight. Fight what? Assets? I'm not interested. I really want to say frankly that I don't care about money, but he certainly won't believe it, because normal people don't believe it either, so I'm too lazy to explain. Lu Nguyen came over, sat down next to me, and said, "Your parents said they will go abroad for a few days. When they return, they will make it up to you. Please don't think too much." I nodded, still in a state where my soul could escape my body at any time. Lu Nuyen sighed, turned to ask Lu Hai, "Is the room ready yet?" Lu Hai looked awkward, still preparing, "But I value my brother very much, so I really want to prepare. Should I let him sleep in the living room first today?" Lu Nuyen glanced at him and immediately realized his intention. How could Kogan just come back and sleep in the living room? He's a family member, not a guest. Lu Hai immediately showed a pitiful expression. "I know, sister, I'm the only outsider in this house." Then he started crying. I saw Lu Nuyen's eyes widen. I also wanted to roll my eyes, but I was lazy. "I'll be fine anywhere, as long as there's a window for ventilation," I calmly said one sentence. Lu Nuyen breathed a sigh of relief. "It seems like I'm not that difficult to please. Just choose a room. Except for your parents' room, the rest are fine. Tomorrow I will arrange a room for you." Lu Hai quickly said, "You can also arrange a room for him." But Lu Nuyen didn't pay any attention to him, just told me, "This afternoon I have to go to school at the company. If anything happens, wait until I get home at night and then tell you." "Yes," I replied lazily, continuing to lie down on the sofa. Lu Nuyen shook her head, seemingly helpless with my laziness. Very quickly after that, she left. It seems like her position at the company is very important. After she left, Lu Hai immediately said to me, "Brother, I'll take you to a good room, I'm sure you'll be satisfied." I reluctantly stood up. If I could lie around in the living room, I definitely wouldn't leave. I really don't want to move at all. As for Lu Hai's zeal, I knew he was definitely planning to play a bad game, but I didn't care. Sure enough, as expected, he took me to a room on the second floor. The room is fragrant, the dressing table is full of skincare cosmetics, the bed is brushed with pale pink sheets. There's even a photo of Lu Nuyen on the dressing table. I suddenly glanced at Lu Hai and thought to myself, "Kid, do you really think I'm stupid and not realize that this is Lu Nuyen's room?" But Lu Hai acted like he didn't know, smiling and saying, "Brother, if you like this place, just rest." I nodded, even though I knew he was playing tricks, but I was really lazy to look for another room. I just want to take a shower and then lie down on the bed. Lu Hai couldn't help but laugh, then quickly slipped out, as if afraid I would change my mind. So I took a shower and then went to bed and lay motionless. At night, I was awakened by a light cough. It's Lu Nuyen. She wore a black office dress and stood coldly in front of the bed, looking like she was waiting for me to explain. Lu Hai stood next to him and said softly, "Sister, I have no choice. He insisted on staying in your room. I told him that you had clean eggs, but he refused to listen." Lu Nuyen was silent for a long time, then suddenly asked these three words. I thought she would be angry. Anyway, Lu Hai tried his best to be provocative. I rubbed my eyes and nodded seriously, "Very comfortable, the perfume river helps you sleep well. Then just sleep here." Lu Nuyen looked at me in surprise, as if she didn't expect that I also knew that the perfume river was effective in helping you sleep well. Lu Hai saw this and felt a bit resentful. "Sister, when I came to your room before, you were already unhappy. How could he sleep here? Is he hungry?" Lu Nuyen didn't pay attention to him, just smiled and looked at me asking. I nodded and added, "But I don't want to get out of bed, so I'll bring it up for you." Lu Nuyen nodded, turned and left. Lu Hai widened his eyes, gritted his teeth and said, "Why? He just came back and you treat him so well. You have clean eggs but let him sleep in your bed. You even let him eat in your bed. Why?" I was lazy to answer, just took out my phone to scroll through the video. Lu Hai felt like a joke, but he didn't leave, as if he really wanted to see how I could eat in Lu Nuyen's bed. Not long after, Lu Nuyen pushed the food cart in. The car has a small table that can be pulled out and can be used as a dining table. Just sit up and you can eat. I lazily sat up, rinsed my mouth first and then started eating. Lu Nuyen sat at the desk, handling company work, completely without a glance. Looking at me, Lu Hai walked over and picked up a glass of juice from the food cart. I knew he was planning to do something bad. Most likely he would pour the juice on the bed and then report me to Lu Nuyen, suspecting that the eggs were clean. I don't know how Lu Nuyen will react, but one thing is certain, if he breaks me, I will have to change rooms. But I'm lazy and don't want to go anywhere. So I raised my phone, aiming it straight at him. Lu Hai was about to pour out the juice when he stopped, immediately changed his attitude, and brought the glass of juice in front of me. You drink the juice, don't you drink it? I looked towards Lu Nuyen. Right at that moment she also looked over, just a moment of eye contact. I realized she had very beautiful eyes, deep as if she could see through everything. Lu Hai, you're about to take the university entrance exam. Don't you need to worry about studying? Lu Nuyen spoke up. The corner of Lu Hai's mouth twitched. Knowing that she was cleverly chasing him, he had to leave the room. After eating, the maid came in to clean up. I continued programming with my left hand, scrolling through my phone with my right. Suddenly 3 hours had passed. I felt sleepy again, intending to take a shower and then go back to sleep. At this time, Lu Nuyen had just finished work. She went over and placed a bottle of medicine at the bedside, brain tonic oriental medicine and vitamin C. Thank. I looked at her suspiciously. Strange, how did she know I needed a brain supplement? But she had already left the room, so I was too lazy to ask. I took a shower, took medicine and quickly fell asleep. The following days, I hardly left my room. Lu Hai always wanted to make trouble with me, but there was no chance. On the contrary, Lu Nuyen is in the room handling work every day, but the two of us hardly talk. Until today, I was still sleeping when suddenly my blanket was snatched away. I woke up startled and discovered my biological parents had returned. The person who snatched the blanket was my biological father. How can you sleep here? Father Lu is angry, brother. Even though she is only an adopted child, you still have to pay attention to her image. If outsiders know that the real young master of the Lu family slept in his sister's room as soon as he returned, what would happen? The reputation of the Lu family cannot be ruined like that. Lu Hai immediately added fuel to the fire. Lu Mao sobbed, heartbroken and said, "Oh my God, why did my biological son become like this? I don't want to live anymore." Father Lu shouted angrily, "You're still in school age, why are there only inappropriate thoughts in your head? Don't hurry up." I calmly pulled the blanket back to cover myself and made a few calls on my phone. The lights in the room turned off and the projector turned on. On the screen is a surveillance video in the room from the time Lu Hai brought me here until now. I'm lazy to explain, but I also don't want to be wronged. My parents looked at Lu Hai, their faces changed a bit, but then my father said, "Your brother brought you here because he wants you to have a good environment, but you should also know how to avoid it a little." My mother sighed. After all, I grew up in the countryside, didn't have any rules, and didn't know how to think about others. I realized they don't care who is right or wrong. You simply don't like me, but if you don't like me, why did you bother to find me before? I'm helpless, but I don't want to say anything more. Luckily, Lu Nuyen returned to help me resolve the situation. When they left, I heard Father Lu say something unpleasant. "You have to know how to take care of yourself. In the future you have to marry for the sake of your family. If your reputation is destroyed, you will lose value." I looked at Lu Nuyen and saw that her face had no emotions when she heard that sentence, as if she had died. Not long after, I was called down for dinner. At the dining table, parents sat sandwiched between Lu Hai. They looked like a complete family of three. Lu Hai is also very skillful, always knows what to say to make his parents happy, so they often look at me with disappointed eyes, then turn to look at Lu Hai with satisfaction, as if to compare. Suddenly, Lu Hai asked, "Kogan, did you study at a rural school? Have you graduated?" I nonchalantly replied, "Graduated." Father Lu frowned. "You and Lu Hai are the same age, he's only in grade 12 and you've already graduated. What do you study?" "Informatics and welding," I answered honestly. Father Lu slammed the table and shouted, "How can the children of the Lu family go to learn manual professions like Han? It's such a shame." Lu Mao also hastily said, "Lu Hai is now in 12th grade at Trung Tan High School. If you have a chance to pass the Tan back exam, you should go there and study temporarily for half a year. Even if you don't pass the exam to a good university, your parents can still donate a building to help you get into a good school and get a degree." "But I've already graduated." I want to tell them that I was in the talented youth class of Harbin University of Technology, graduated a long time ago, and even worked. This time I came back just to visit home, and soon I had to go back to work. But my work unit has a very high level of security, which cannot be disclosed. Plus I'm too lazy to explain, so I don't bother saying it. Father Lu slammed the table again and shouted, "Do you still dare to argue? I have decided, tomorrow you will come to Not Trung to report your name." Oh my God, do they want to put me in the furnace again? Furthermore, if I remember correctly, the year I graduated from Harbin University of Technology, I went to Not Trung to instruct. I'm really curious, wondering what kind of expression the principal of Not Trung will have when he sees me coming to school. At this time, a guest came to visit, a family of three, a middle-aged couple who looked very rich. There was also a young man about the same age as Lu Nuyen, quite handsome, with sunken eyes, pale face, looking like he had been eroded by purple. When Nuyen saw him, her face became very unsightly. Could this be her fiancé? At this time, the two sides had finished greeting. The middle-aged man and woman seemed to appreciate Lu Hai very much, and the other man kept staring at Lu Nuyen. Occasionally, he even licks his lips. He looks really mean. Seeing that I didn't get up, Lu Fu frowned and said, "His name is Kogan, his family name will be changed from now on to Lu. He is my lost biological son. I just found it. I'm not familiar with the rules." Then he asked me to say hello. I was lazy, called out uncle, aunt, and then ended it. Lu Hai said again, "Brother, this is our future brother-in-law." I looked at that disgusting man and then at Lu Nuyen's pale face. Then I stood up. It seemed that Lu Nuyen looked at me with those eyes, as if asking for help. Stepping in front of her, I lifted her chin and kissed her down. The atmosphere immediately froze. Everyone turned to stone. I stood up straight, put my hand on Lu Nuyen's shoulder, looked at them and said, "Introduction, this is my girlfriend." Lu Nuyen, the whole room was as silent as death. That disgusting man immediately rushed towards me, saying his name was Chu. "Then, do you dare to kiss my fiancée?" Shochin shouted, grabbing the plate on the table. I also conveniently pushed Lu Hai forward. Bang, the plate hit Lu Hai's head straight, shattering into pieces. Lu Hai screamed in pain, held his head and cried, blood flowing through his hand. I pulled Lu Nuyen behind me and told them in a lazy tone, "Lu Nuyen and I have been together for a long time, I'm still living in her room. If you don't believe me, just ask everyone." Lu Fu was so angry that he couldn't speak. Lu Mao seemed to be a person who shed tears quickly. She sat down on the chair and burst into tears, this house is so unfortunate. Chuthan's family also felt awkward, then left immediately. The room fell silent again. I held Lu Nuyen's hand. I could feel her trembling, not sure if she was scared or emotional. Lu Fu glared at me and said, "You don't want to live anymore?" "I don't want to." I still kept my cold tone and replied faintly, "Lu Nuyen is my girlfriend. No one is allowed to take her away." Having finished speaking, I pulled her away. Lu Hai rushed forward and stopped in front of me. "Brother, you can't do that. I can't stand by and watch you do something that harms the Lu family." Pop! I threw a strong kick. Lu Hai flew away, then turned back to look at his biological parents and said, "I'm coming back here. There are no other requests, just Lu Nuyen." After that, I pulled Lu Nuyen away without giving them a chance to refute. Returning to the room, Lu Nuyen and I sat on the bed, our eyes as big as small ones. "I know you don't want to get married." I hesitated for a long time before saying this sentence. "Lu Nuyen, your lips look very beautiful. Just the act of eyelids is so beautiful that it makes me want to kiss you again. How did it feel when you kissed just now? Soft, cool, like it has some suction power. Why did you help me?" Finally, Lu Nuyen also asked. "You're stuck with clean eggs. Your parents say I'm dirty, but you're willing to let me sit in your car. Your room is so clean and tidy. As for mine, it's a mess, yet you still let me sleep here. You still care about me a lot. I know I'm too nervous. After all, you're good to me, so I'm good to you. This is what my parents taught me." "I emphasize," I said, "the adoptive parents, not the biological parents. So what should we do next?" Lu Nuyen asked again, "Can you protect me for the rest of your life?" "Okay," I nodded firmly. "If you want, I will take you to a place where no one will dare to control your life anymore." Lu Nuyen moved her lips, as if she wanted to say something, but in the end she didn't say it. I really wanted to know what she was thinking, but I didn't know how to ask. The next day, I was woken up by Lu Nuyen. She slept right next to me, but we didn't do anything. Actually, I also had a bit of an evil mind, but because I was so tired, I immediately fell asleep as soon as I lay down. After washing our faces, we went downstairs. I held Lu Nuyen's hand, mainly to make her biological parents give up the idea of forcing her to get married. When they saw me, their faces were all very ugly, especially Lu Fu. After Lu Nuyen sat down, he immediately said, "Lu Nuyen, your position at the company has been dismissed, your card will also be locked." Lu Mao gently advised, "Nuyen, please listen to your parents and agree to get married. We all know that Kogan is only acting with you. They are not too stupid, they can still realize that. You'll lose all faith in the world. You won't be able to continue living the luxurious life you're used to. Are you sure you can handle it?" Lu Nuyen bowed her head without saying a word, just quietly eating breakfast. This is silent protest. I touched my pocket, found a card, placed it in front of Lu Nuyen and said, "Use it freely." The corner of Lu Hai's mouth twitched, and finally he couldn't help but laugh. "Brother Hai, you come from the countryside, how much money do you have? Aren't your adoptive parents mine workers? It's not that I look down on them, but mine workers can be rich, right?" I looked at him coldly and said, "Those mine workers you mentioned are your real parents." Lu Hai's face immediately stiffened, but then said, "The grace of birth is not as good as the grace of upbringing." He looked towards Lu's parents, "The parents in my heart, you two are my real parents." Lu's parents nodded with satisfaction, but I could see in their eyes contempt for Lu Hai. A person who doesn't even recognize his biological parents, who will truly value his feelings? I feel heartbroken for my adoptive parents, because they are always waiting for Lu Hai to return. Lu Hai looked at me again and said, But Mr. Hai, you are a member of the Liu family. The future responsibility of the family will be on our shoulders. You also have to try your best. Or should you just let your sister get married? I looked at him deeply and replied, if I'm lazy to talk, I'll do anything. Don't tease me. It seemed like he remembered what I kicked him about yesterday, so he didn't dare say anything anymore. Lu's parents also did not continue to intervene. It can be seen that although they don't like me, they still care about me because I am a blood relative of the Liu family, their legitimate heir. No matter how popular Liu Hai is, they will never hand over the family to him. My adoptive parents once told me that families with deep roots like the Liu family value bloodline very much. After breakfast, Lu's parents offered to take me to school. Liu Hai quickly said, "Mom, Dad, I'm familiar with school, let me take my brother, no need to bother you two." But Liu Mao immediately objected, "No, our son, on the first day of school, if we are not present, others will look down on him." Lu Fu also nodded in agreement, "Yes, not only do we have to take him away, but we also have to let the entire school know that he is our biological son." Liu Hai clenched his fists, his face extremely ugly, but he did not dare to refute. More than an hour later, the car stopped in front of Not Trung School's gate. The entering students all obediently lined up to enter the school gate. The school leadership stood. Waiting at the gate, there was even a banner with the words "Welcome General Liu to visit and direct." I remember the last time I came here, on the banner was written "Welcome the late general to visit and direct." The word general that time did not mean the general director but the general engineer. This time, it was changed to General Liu, probably because they knew I was from the Liu family. Anyway, to complete the admission procedure, the school also received my documents, including my father's photo. It's truly honorable to send your brother to school, and even the school leaders personally came to welcome him. Liu Hai immediately tolerated him, thinking that the banner was to welcome Father Liu. Father Liu immediately cheered up, but in his heart he also seemed a little confused, because the principal of a key provincial school would not give him such a respectful welcome. Liu Hai said again, "My parents are normal. I performed very well, so it is understandable that the school values me. After all, I contributed a little effort, but I will not be complacent, I will continue to try." Lu Man nodded in approval. Liu Hai is amazing. Proverb, you should learn more from your younger brother. Father Liu didn't say anything, because he knew that even the students considered to be the seeds of Tan Bak were not valued to this extent by the school, much less could they use such a grand reception. Lu Nuyen quietly walked up to me and asked softly, "What's going on?" I smiled faintly. "Just picking me up." Later, I discovered that Lu Nuyen actually believed it, she really believed it. We continued a step forward. Father Liu reached out to the principal, smiled and said, "Principal Kong, I didn't expect you to be so elegant." But Principal Kong didn't pay attention to him, but walked straight in front of me, proactively stretched out his hand and said, "I heard that you were coming to visit your hometown. We sent an invitation, but it was rejected. I really didn't expect you to enter the first high school as a T student." At this time, several computer teachers also hurriedly walked over, first shaking my hand, then couldn't help but ask all kinds of difficult questions. My adoptive parents and Liu Hai were both stunned on the spot. On the contrary, Lu Nuyen was not too surprised, just looked at me with eyes full of smiles. Father Liu couldn't help but ask, "Principal Kong, did you recognize the wrong person?" "He is my son." Principal Kong nodded and said, "I know. That's why I changed the words on the welcome banner from late general to General Liu. He said, "What is it?" Hearing that, Father Liu felt stunned, but Principal Kong did not answer but only said mysteriously, "Let's go inside and continue talking, this is not the right place to discuss things." After that, we were led to the small hall of the middle school. Furthermore, I was also arranged by Principal Kong to sit in the center. Not only that, they also prepared a lot of cakes and candy for me. Father Lu once again asked impatiently, "Principal Kong, what is this?" Principal Kong smiled slightly, looked at Father Lu with a strange expression and explained, "Mr. Lu, don't you know how excellent your biological son is?" Father Lu also wanted to know, but he really didn't know. Since discovering that I was his biological son, he and his wife did not find out anything more, because in their eyes I was just a child raised by minors. That's why they never set expectations or took me seriously. Lu Hai couldn't help but walked over and asked, "Principal, why did you let him enter the school?" Principal Kong coldly pointed outside and shouted, "Get out, without my permission, no one can come in." Lu Hai gasped, his face turned pale. Before that, he also boasted that the school took him seriously because of his excellent achievements, but at this moment, his face felt like it was painfully blank. He quietly left. But Principal Kong glanced at Lu Nuyen. I quickly said, "She is my girlfriend." Hearing that, Principal Kong immediately nodded and his attitude towards Lu Nuyen was much more polite. Father Lu continued to wonder, "Principal, what exactly is going on? Please explain clearly." Principal Kong slowly said, "Gu Yan, the late general engineer, entered the junior class of Harbin Industrial University at the age of 11. 2 years later, he started working and in just 1 year was in charge of the entire project. 3 years ago, the late general engineer returned home to visit, and he came to my school to teach. The achievements that Not Trung has in the field of computers are all thanks to the foundation that the late general engineer built." Principal Kong finished speaking and looked at Father Lu with a strange expression. "Let me tell you, Mr. Lu, you are Kogan's biological father, yet you don't understand anything about your son, and even let him get into high school first. If outsiders don't know, they'll think you're insulting me." Father Lu was stunned, his eyes opened as wide as bronze bells. Mother Lu was not much better, even Lu Nuyen looked at me in surprise. "Are you that powerful?" I nodded, too lazy to explain, just silently ate the cake, and conveniently gave a piece to Lu Nuyen. Father Lu said awkwardly, "We just welcomed Kogan home, so we don't fully understand it yet." However, when he looked at me, his eyes were filled with pride. Mother Lu is also much more gentle and affectionate. "Even though I don't need to study at the first high school anymore, I'm already here, so I should help them solve some technical problems." During that process, Father Lu and Mother Lu followed me closely in school. Some students recognized them and immediately ran to say hello. At that time, they were very proud to introduce, "This is our biological son, he is here to give technical guidance." I also saw Lu Hai standing secretly not far away, his gloomy eyes staring at me. In short, it was almost dark when I was released to go home. On the way home, I was sandwiched between Father Lu and Mother Lu. They didn't know what to say to me, but their faces still showed pride. Except when working, I'm inherently a lazy person, even talking is lazy, so I closed my eyes to meditate, but I felt someone looking at me. When I opened my eyes, I immediately saw Lu Hai's jealous eyes. Upon arriving home, Lu Fu and Lu Mao immediately wanted to call and inform everyone about my existence. I reminded them that I could say I was in junior class or was an expert in the computer field, but not to say too much for safety reasons. They immediately understood and happily ran away to brag to others. I lay down on the sofa, playing with my phone, while Lu Nuyen sat next to me, occasionally giving me cakes to eat. Lu Hai silently walked back and forth, his face gloomy, but in the end he still said nothing. At dinner time, the whole family gathered in the dining room. Lu Hai immediately spoke up, "Mom, Dad, I will definitely become excellent like him." Lu Mao frowned and said coldly, "Your 11-year-old brother is already in the gifted class, and you are now 18 years old." Her tone became sharp. "Lu Hai, you must understand that there are times when no matter how hard you try, you cannot overcome your natural talent." Lu Fu also nodded, "If you try hard, you can pass Tan Hoa or back Dai, that's good. If you don't pass, it's okay." Now they no longer have high hopes for Lu Hai. Before, they needed him to save face for the family, but now they don't need him anymore because in terms of education, no one can beat me. Lu Hai's face was extremely unsightly, his bloodshot eyes looked at me as if he wanted to breathe fire. Lu Fu and Lu Mao also realized that. "Lu Hai, you should clearly identify your identity," Lu Fu reminded. Lu Mao also said, "The Lu family's ability to keep you is a great respect. If you dare to harm Kogan, don't blame us for not being polite." Lu Hai seemed to fall into despair, his hand clenched the fruit knife, his eyes looking at me full of hatred. At this moment, the maid who was serving the dishes suddenly pulled out a gun from his shirt. This maid just arrived 3 days ago. Because my superiors knew I would return to the Lu family, they made arrangements in advance to protect me. She pointed the gun at Lu Hai and said coldly, "If you ever show any hostility towards the general, I will immediately shoot you to death." Lu Fu and Lu Mao were stunned, completely unexpected that there was someone in the house protecting me. Lu Nuyen was also a little scared and leaned closer to me. I waved my hand to signal the maid to leave. Then, he looked straight at Lu Hai and said, "You're worried that when I come back I'll take everything from you, right? But the reality is, whether it's me or not, as long as it's determined that you're not a member of the Lu family, everything in the Lu family has nothing to do with you. They would rather leave the property to anyone in the family, but definitely not leave it to you. This is already an unchangeable truth. Furthermore, I don't care about money, because our goals are completely different. Finally, I advise you one thing, don't intend to kill me, otherwise, the person who will die will be you." In addition to there being guards in the villa right now, there are also snipers watching this place. I thought for a moment and then added, "Ah, that's right, there's something that everyone probably doesn't know. My adoptive parents are not miners but the owners of that coal mine. In fact, they are even richer than the Lu family." These words once again made everyone in the Lu family silent. Lu Fu asked in surprise, "But didn't you go down to the mine yourself that day? The safety system in the mine was designed by you, you went down to check and adjust. Everyone must have seen how lazy you are. How can you go mining?" I feel helpless with their reasoning. Lu Hai suddenly asked excitedly, "Are you saying my biological parents are very rich?" "That's right," I reminded him, "we also have a younger brother and younger sister. You deserve as much as you deserve. I advise you not to fight for things that don't belong to you." They thought I grew up in poverty, but in reality I lived in the richest family. My adoptive parents love me very much, and my siblings also have very good feelings for me. The car I gave to Lu Nuyen, inside was a corn at the current exchange rate. Now, it's probably tens of billions. For me, money has never been a problem. I've never lacked love. Lu Hai was silent. After a long while, he suddenly stood up and said, "I have to go home immediately." "It's up to you," I replied nonchalantly, because I also expected it to be like this. Half a month later, I was urgently summoned. Lu Nuyen was chosen by me to be my living assistant, so she also followed me. Before leaving, I returned to my adoptive parents' house. They don't seem very happy. After asking, I realized that it was because Lu Hai was so sinister that as soon as he returned, he wanted to fight for property. Actually, I felt a bit awkward, because technically, this was no longer my business. My adoptive parents saw my confusion and immediately comforted me not to think too much. They said that in their hearts, I will always be their biological son. After knowing the relationship between me and Lu Nguyen, they immediately prepared a meeting gift for her. My adoptive parents were quite straightforward, directly donating money and real estate, making Lu Nguyen stunned when she received it. Before leaving, I met Lu Hai privately again, but this time the conversation was more of a warning. Remind him of his identity. However, I can still clearly see that his ambition is too great, and he is also extremely selfish. But I really don't have time to worry about these things. That evening, I left and continued my work. 3 years later, Lu Nguyen and I had our first vacation. We returned to the Lu family's house, officially accepting our ancestors. After that, the two families met to meet, discussing the marriage between me and Lu Nguyen, but because my status is so special, the wedding was held very discreetly. Didn't even invite relatives in the family. What surprised me was that Lu Hai had changed a lot. He became calmer, no longer had self-serving thoughts like before. When I asked, it turned out that my younger brother was at home. My adoptive parents had taught him several times, causing him to completely withdraw. After all, they are people with money. To be where they are today, they had to go through countless things. There's no way anything can be done about his tricks. Furthermore, people will change according to their living environment. The Lu family is too pragmatic, everything they do must consider benefits, so Lu Hai becomes selfish and calculating. But after a long time living in my adoptive parents' family, he gradually changed. Lu Nguyen and I stayed at her house the next day and went to the capital to report on work. After more than 3 months, we returned to work again. A few more years of hard work, when the project was about to be completed, Lu Nguyen became pregnant. At this time, I have my next vacation.